Okay, good afternoon, class. We are going to look at tax audit and the tax audit. We are to look at the meaning of tax audit. Tax audit can be defined as a routine examination of financial statement, tax returns, as well as other books and record of accounts of a taxpayer in order to ascertain the taxpayer's level of compliance with the relevant tax laws. This tax audit is all about compliance. The taxpayer, has he complied with the relevant tax law? And the tax laws, they are going to examine all the records of that taxpayer, the financial statement, the tax returns file, and the TB of that entity. They have to examine all this to ensure that the taxpayer has complied with all the relevant tax law. And to do this, there are various types of information that the tax authority will review, and one of this is, first they have to review the tax returns, then the financial statements, then the accounting and non-accounting relevant record. Accounting and non-accounting relevant records, then source documents, and they are going to look at minutes of board meeting, minutes of board meetings, bank statements, then any other documents. So these are some of the documents that they have to examine when carrying out tax audit, just to ensure that that taxpayer has complied fully with the relevant tax laws. And now we are going to look at the rules and objectives of tax audits. Objectives of tax audit. Rules and objectives of tax audit. One, to determine whether or not the taxpayer has complied with the relevant tax laws. This compliance with relevant tax laws. This one of the objectives of carrying out tax audits is to ensure that that taxpayer has complied with all the relevant tax laws. Number two is discovery of existence of tax fraud. This discovery of tax fraud. So in a situation whereby the taxpayer has done something wrong in filing of his tax returns, the objectives of this thing is to identify that tax fraud. So that is the second advantage or objectives of carrying out tax audits. Third one is to discourage tax evasion. Discourage tax evasion, or by enhancing high tax compliance rate. So this means that for a taxpayer to now refuse to comply with all the tax laws, and the tax authority is not carrying out tax audit, that taxpayer will continue. But in a situation whereby the tax authority is carrying out tax audit, there is no room for that taxpayer to carry out all this tax evasion. Then number 4, to provide ways of educating taxpayers. This educating taxpayers. This means is that there are some taxpayers, it's not like their intention is to commit fraud or to commit crime or not to comply with the relevant tax laws, but they don't know. They will just file their returns anyhow. But in a situation whereby the tax authority is carrying out tax audits, they will educate them. In computing your tax returns, you are expected to include this, that, and this, or not to include this. So with that, they are educating the tax payer. That is then number 5. Enable tax authorities to gather information on taxpayer, especially information of a permanent nature. This gathering information. This another objectives of carrying out tax audit is to assist the tax authority in gathering other information concerning the taxpayer, because sometimes tax authority not be able to obtain all the necessary information from the taxpayer until they conduct tax audits. So at this point, they are going to obtain the necessary information from the taxpayer. We are now going to look at the classification of tax audits. Classification of tax audits. Basically, there are 2 types of tax audit, which we have. One, we call it desk tax audit, and the other one is field audit. Desk audit and the field audit. Desk tax audit and field tax audit. These are the 2 types of tax audits we have. Then the desk tax audit is the examination of a financial statement and tax returns submitted by the taxpayer. It involves carrying out analysis, review, using accounting tools of interpretation like ratio analysis, trend analysis, but all this will be conducted in the tax office. That is why it's called desk audits. The exercise is carried out on a routine basis, ensuring that most or not all of the returns submitted to the tax office are subjected to audit. This is the first stage of the audit. Have to conduct the audit. They will review all the returns filed by the taxpayer with the tax audit. They will review that in their office. That is why it's called desk audit. And the main purpose of conducting this tax audit is to ensure completeness and accuracy of the information and documents submitted to the tax office. This is the main objective of conducting this tax audit, and where the tax inspector issue queries on the returns filed by the taxpayer, requesting him to forward additional information and some documents to the tax office, or even appear in person to clarify some issues in the returns. And that is also called desk tax audits, because in a situation whereby they need some clarification concerning the tax returns filed by that taxpayer, they can request that person to come to the office or to forward some additional information. And in a situation whereby even if the taxpayer submitted all this, they are not okay with that tax returns, then it now have to move to field tax audit. Now let's look at field tax audit. The field tax audit is to examine is the examination of version of taxpayers' books and record carried out in the business premises of the taxpayers to authenticate the tax returns and accounts. This is a situation whereby the tax authority will now have to visit the premises of the taxpayer in order to authenticate the returns filed by the taxpayer. So they now have to look at all the source documents, all the other information they need. They now have to look at it. That is field audit. Then with the distinction between tax audit and field audit. The tax audit is exercise that is carried out on the tax returns and financial statement of the taxpayers in the office without visiting the business premises of the taxpayer. That is desk tax audit. Then the field audit is the examination of taxpayers' books and records in the premises of the taxpayer to authenticate the tax returns and other records of that taxpayers. This is the difference between the desk audit and the field audit. Okay, thank you so much. The next class we are going to look at the characteristics of tax auditors. Thank you.